Hi everyone, Andrea here again. I'm sensing some of you have been having some great reads, so I'll be waiting for the comments down below recommending those exact books, okay? And while you write all your recommendations, you can stay and hear what I have to say about some recommendations for yourself. I mean, and for me too. Today's video, I decided to make it because of the huge amount of book adaptations we have going on at the moment. Since Game of Thrones, our brains have been bombarded with fantasy and science fiction adaptations from books all the time. They're just coming more and more and more. And let's be honest, because there are so many, a lot of them aren't exactly that good. But the thing is, within these, there are some really good pearls that we need to watch. And in this video, I decided to pick some of these, some of what I think are good adaptations within the fantasy and science fiction genres. So for this video, I'll be picking 5 TV adaptations that when I watched them, it actually made me want to read the books that they're based off because I thought they were quite good, so I want to read and figure out if the book is better than the TV show. I'm not planning to spoil anything about the TV show or the books. I mean, I haven't read the books, so I also don't want to be spoiled, but I will be talking about some details. So every time I will leave a timestamp if you don't want to get spoiled on anything. If you're allergic to spoilers, then just skip to that time point. So let's start this. The first show that I want to talk about is Good Omens. This show is on Amazon Prime. I've only seen the first season so far. There's another season released and a third season, I think, in the plans to be produced. The fact that I've only seen the first season, it's fine because the first season is the one that is actually based off a book from Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman with the same name, Good Omens. The second and predicted third season are going to be based off a book that is not yet published, that I think Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman had outlined pieces of it, and Terry Pratchett died before they could finish, so I actually think Neil Gaiman will try and finish that book now because of the series, so that the readers can get the sequel. For those that don't know, Terry Pratchett is the author of The Discworld, which is a universe with multiple books in it. I've read a couple of them and they're really good, highly recommend. Neil Gaiman has also written many books, amongst them American Gods and Nancy Boys, which I've read, and again, both of them were quite good. A bit different from Terry Pratchett's, but still quite good. And it's funny because these two authors have quite different styles. So when I heard about this show that was being produced based on a book that they both wrote together, then it really spiked my curiosity and I wanted to watch it. Okay, if you don't want to hear the premise of the show, then skip to this timestamp. Otherwise, I'm just going to say what they mention about the show, which is more or less what happens in the book. Alright, you ready? Let's go. Good Omens follows a demon named Crowley and an angel, Aziraphale, longtime acquaintances who have grown accustomed to each other's company, and to a pleasant life on earth as representatives of heaven and hell, and who have agreed not to let the conflict between their sides prevent their friendship. When told that Armageddon is about to happen, the final battle between heaven and hell, they team up to prevent the coming of the Antichrist and the end of the pleasant existence they enjoy on earth. This show has an excellent tone to it. It's sarcastic, it's funny, and I think that's where the strength is, because it's what the authors Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman do best. They give us a lesson through humor. You're laughing a lot or you think things are funny when suddenly you're actually being taught a lesson about something quite important and about morals. It's a bit of British humor which may not please everyone. However, I would still say try it out because sometimes British humor doesn't really align with me, but this one I really liked it and I found it extremely funny. By the way, if the book is as good as the TV show, I'm really keen to read it, and it actually has been bumped up in my TBR because of the show. Our next adaptation is Foundation on Apple TV+. This show is also on its second season. Again, I've only watched the first season. I really need to catch up on all these TV shows, but there are just so many. Foundation is based off of books of the same name, a series of the same name by Isaac Asimov. I've never read anything by Asimov, but I've only heard good things about it. Again, Asimov books were also on my TBR, but once I saw Foundation, those books started climbing up to have a higher priority. The premise of the show is as follows, and again, here's a timestamp in case you want to skip it, right? I'll give you some seconds. Okay. In the waning days of a future galactic empire, the mathematician Harry Seldon spends his life developing a theory of psychohistory, a new and effective mathematics of sociology. Using statistical laws of mass action, it can predict the future of large populations. Selden foresees the imminent fall of the empire, which encompasses the entire Milky Way and a dark age lasting 30,000 years before a second empire arises. Although the momentum of the empire's fall is too great to stop, Selden devises a plan by which the onrushing mass of events must be deflected just a little, to eventually limit this interregnum to just 1,000 years. I find the premise doesn't really make justice to the show. Or maybe the show doesn't make justice to the premise. The show is able to develop a lot of different fronts at the same time. And let's talk about the cinematography of this show. Wow. I don't particularly like Apple in itself as a company, but they do invest a lot of money on their shows. And it shows. It shows. I mean, even it looks amazing. Even if the writing or the plot aren't the best they could be, it's a feast for the eyes. And I know that even though my eyes won't be feasting the same when I read the series, I bet Isaac Asimov was a great writer. I mean, that's why he's so famous, that my brain will be feasting on the imagination I create by reading his books. Now for our third recommendation, we are deviating from fantasy and from science fiction, and we're diving into horror. The book I'm talking about, or the TV show I'm talking about, is Lovecraft Country. This show only has one season and it has 10 episodes and was produced by HBO. I watched it all and I loved it all. And before you judge the show by its title, Lovecraft Country is a book that is not about H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, it kind of is, but not really. This show is based on the books of the same name, Lovecraft Country, written by Matt Ruff. And the brilliance of this show is that it uses H.P. Lovecraft's myths and stories, and it subverts them to elevate Black people and Black history. And because we all know H.P. Lovecraft's visions on race and things like that, I really applaud the author and the producers of this show to be able to produce it and give it such an amazing cast and elevate these people and these stories. I'm going to talk about the premise now, but again, a timestamp, just in case you want to skip it. Ready? Let's go. Atticus Freeman, as he joins up with his friend Letitia and his uncle George to embark on a road trip across 1950s Jim Crow America in search of his missing father. This begins a struggle to survive and overcome both the racist terrors of white America and the terrifying monsters that could be ripped from a Lovecraft paperback. Again, the premise doesn't say much, but the show is so funny and so engaging. It has a lot of suspense too, and it addresses a lot of good themes. I mean, the show is set in the 1950s, but the themes couldn't be more actual and more modern to the days that we face in 2023. And the cast just kills it. I love the actors and actresses all around the show, and I didn't know about them, but now I recognize them in so many other movies and TV shows, and I really enjoy seeing them. I'm not sure if it was a faithful adaptation or not, but I'm definitely keen in reading the book to find that out. I just wish there were more of this show for me to see, but unfortunately there's only one season. Now diving back into science fiction. Another show that I've seen recently, I mean, it just finished recently, a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two back, is Silo, again on Apple TV+. This show only has one season, but this season is amazing, and it made me want to read the book really bad because I thought this book could have a lot of potential and show me a good story. And this is what amazes me. Apple TV+ is able to create such amazing shows with just the cinematography, the design of sets and everything. I just find amazing. Okay, that the sample size is not that big, 2 out of 2, but still, it's still a good rating. About the books that this series is based on. It's a series of the same name, Silo, and it was written by Hugh Howey. The show is intriguing. It has some of those dystopian/utopian tropes that exist in science fiction, but I think they're given the right spice to make it just different enough that it's still engaging and we're just not watching a rehash of the same types of things. It has a super simple premise, but aside from some scientific incongruities that not many people would know about, I think it actually delivers on the premise, and it's very good. And if you want to hear more about it, then just sit there. If you want to skip the premise, then just timestamp. Humanity clings to survival in the silo, a self-sustaining subterranean city with 144 floors. No record of the time before the silo remain. All residents of the silo are taught that the outside world is toxic and deadly, and the silo's cardinal rule is that anyone who expresses a desire to go outside must be sent there to clean the external sensors with a wool cloth. Those sent outdoors invariably clean the sensors as instructed, but die within minutes, reaffirming to the silo residents that the outside is inhabitable. So in this show, Silo, the first couple of episodes deals with this mystery from the premise, and the rest is spent just observing life and observing the mechanics and politics within the silo. Of course, still with the mystery behind. It's fascinating. And I know that the series of books is a bit confusing because even though it's a trilogy, the first 2 books are omnibuses of several short stories, so there's actually like 9 pieces of reading to be done, but I'm actually interested in reading them all because they sound so engaging. But yeah, so science fiction, Silo Foundation, both really good. But let's move on to fantasy once more. Our last adaptation that I want to talk about today is The Sandman. This show premiered recently, and by recently maybe close to a year now, maybe, on Netflix. The show was very well received. It's adapted from a graphic novel written by Neil Gaiman of the same name, The Sandman. And I know, I've mentioned something written by Neil Gaiman again, but what can I do? He just writes really good stuff. I had heard about The Sandman for a long time, and I had some curiosity, but not that much. I mean, there were so many other Neil Gaiman books to read that I was always more interested in reading something else. But after watching this show, I actually got a lot more interested in picking up the graphic novel. And then again, premise for this show is, you know what to do, right? If you don't want to hear spoilers, okay? Let's go. Morpheus, the personification of dreams and one of the 7 Endless, is captured in an occult ritual in 1916. After being held captive for 106 years, Dream escapes and sets out to restore order to his realm, the Dreaming. The premise is super simple, doesn't really say much. And the other thing is that the TV show, the series, is actually divided into 2 different arcs, and the premise only talks about the first arc, not the second arc. And they are quite independent of each other. I mean, not really independent, but they don't seem to be a continuation of a story. It seemed like 2 different arcs. But I won't delve into it anymore because that would be its whole video, and we're focusing on adaptations and books. Even though I didn't really like the fact that it was 2 different arcs and the second arc was weaker than the first, I still enjoyed it quite a lot, and it made me want to read the graphic novel. And it's funny because I saw online there were scenes of this TV show that were almost like panel by panel of the graphic novel, and then others where they seem to have taken a left turn completely and done something very different. So there's this duality, and I'm keen to know more about the graphic novel to see what parts were different and how was the show improved, or like how is the graphic novel better in that sense. So there are those mixed feelings, but there's true potential in me reading this graphic novel. And those are our 5 adaptations that have encouraged me to read the books. Before we end this video, I just have one honorable mention. The honorable mention is the show The Expanse, written by James S. A. Corey, which is actually 2 authors. It's a pseudonym for 2 authors, which are Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham. This show was initially developed by Sci-Fi for 3 seasons, then it was kind of cancelled, but Amazon Prime picked it up and finished 3 other seasons of it. I won't mention the premise here because this video is already running a bit long, but basically it's a space opera where humanity has been able to colonize the solar system and is fighting for resources within it. I thought the show was really good. I really liked the acting and the science background in the whole show. It was really well done. Anyway, I mean, it was so well done that I actually started reading the series, finished reading the series of books, which are 8 or 9 books, not entirely sure. And I enjoyed the TV show more than the books. It's one of those rare cases where that happens. but I still think they're full of action and yeah, just a good time. But that is all for today. So what do you think? Which of these shows have you seen, or are you keen to see, or have you read the books but not seen the shows? Tell me what's happening. Comment down below for that. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and I'll be seeing you soon. All right? Adeus! I just noticed when I was editing the video, have you realized that all the posters for the TV shows I was talking about are all the same? It's always just a bunch of people in the front, which are the main protagonists, and then some bland background or some special effects, but like always the people, it's that Avengers type of poster, and they haven't changed at all. Come on, let's have some originality maybe.